I am Reverend Lynn Gardner. She and they are my pronouns, and I serve as co-minister here in Schenectady alongside Reverend Wendy Bartell. Wendy's name is Wendy's pronoun, as he, she, and they don't fit. If you chose to visit any of our 5 congregations in Albany, Catskills, Glens Falls, Saratoga Springs, or Schenectady for the first time today, whether you're here in the room or in our Zoom sanctuary, we offer you an especially warm welcome. You have chosen a special day to attend. 14 years ago, the Hudson Mohawk cluster of Unitarian Universalists chose to have a shared worship service. Since then, our congregations have shared workshops and trainings, advocated for justice initiatives together, and sometimes offered support in times of change or need.
We are so thrilled to be welcoming a very special guest as our worship leader, the Reverend Mary Katherine Morn, who is the president and lead executive of the UU Service Committee, or UUSC, which works with community partners around the globe. Prior to leading UUSC, Mary Katherine served congregations in Georgia, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. She also served in volunteer leadership with the UU Ministers Association, and for 4 years as Director of Stewardship and Development for the Unitarian Universalist Association. The Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, UUSC, we're going to get you that acronym in your head, is an independent, non-sectarian, international human rights organization grounded in Unitarian Universalist values that has been advancing justice and resisting oppressive systems for 85 years. UUSC's work is based on a partnership model, also worthy of applause, that centers the experience and leadership of the people who are most impacted by justice. Internationally, UUSC's work focuses on justice and accountability, climate and disaster justice, and migration justice. They work with more than 50 grassroots organizations in 20 countries, offering critical operating funds, partner-led research support, international convenings, and community advocacy. In the United States and beyond, UUSC is focused on defending civil liberties by strengthening protections for people in migration, ensuring rights for trans and gender expansive people, expanding civil society's power to organize against authoritarian restrictions, defending international human rights institutions from U.S. government interference and defunding, and advancing climate justice by resisting policies that fuel environmental harm and displacement. All this work is made possible through the support of people like all of us who support in lots of different ways. Mary Katherine, we are so glad that you are with us today. Thank you.
We resist. We resist. We refuse to let hatred in. I'm so grateful for the reminder of my aspiration. But some days it's really hard. And maybe you feel the same. Having your voices in my ear helps me stay strong, helps me remember. And your voices, my clergy colleagues, and the voices of our religious education teachers, and the voices of our greeters, and the voices of all of you who bring this together. Sometimes that makes all the difference. Nudge activists who are witnessing on Tuesday for medical aid in dying. You help me remember. It's a really effective way, I think, to resist hate, surrounding ourselves by voices of love and compassion. And that's why I'm here. Is that why you came? To surround ourselves with these voices. I am so grateful you came to our Zoom sanctuary and to this breathtakingly beautiful and powerful circle. And even if you come on Tuesday during lunch, I'm glad you came too. Can we resist? Will we refuse? Is there love here? At UUSC, we are also grateful for the voices of love and solidarity and compassion that we hear every day from our grassroots partners, and that we have especially heard since November. Our partner, Juan Jose, is the director of UUSC organization Pope No in Guatemala. Pope No provides, among other things, support for children who are deported from the United States, often separated from their parents. Juan Jose has for decades worked in dangerous conditions to provide opportunity and self-determination for communities living under the weight of government oppression and violence. On November 6th, he wrote to us at UUSC to let us know he was thinking of us, mourning with us over the hatred and upside down values the election represented, and sending us strength. And he said, "Remember, the resistance of generations makes us stronger." Will we resist? I'm grateful for this opportunity to share UUSC partner voices with you. If they were here, I know what they'd say. They'd say, "We are with you. The resistance of generations makes us stronger. Our vision of justice and love will not be taken from us. We will not give them our joy. We are not drowning. We are fighting. We resist. We refuse." Thank you, Hudson Mohawk cluster of congregations. What a gift that you are already building connections for commitment and collective action. And thank you so much for inviting UUSC to be part of your imagining how we will live the values of our faith so that we can dare to courageously co-create a world where all people will flourish, all people and our planet will thrive. I really love that you come together every year and have been doing this for 14 years. Do you know how unusual that is? It's very unusual, and it is so powerful. Congratulations on your commitment to this solidarity. If only we did more of this in our communities, then we wouldn't so easily forget how connected we are. We would not so easily forget how powerful we are. In her poetic celebration of solidarity, Marge Piercy begins with a frank reminder of all the ways tyrants will try to control and harm us. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up, they can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can... Honestly, I just don't really want to go on. I don't think we need any help imagining real and anticipated oppression, violence, and hate. And while the context of what is possible, what they can do to you is important, Piercy's poem is about what you can do, what we can do. The message of her poem is that solidarity is the practice that makes possible beloved community, heaven on earth, human rights for all, the full flourishing and, frankly, survival of our world. I love her dramatic description of the power of solidarity. After she sets this context, what they can and will do, she continues, "Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house and not have leftovers of pie. With 6, you can hold a fundraising party. A dozen makes a demonstration. 100, 200 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity in your own newsletter. 10,000 power in your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. Could we have our own country, please? If it goes, and then it goes on, she continues, one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again, when they said no. It starts when you say we and know who you mean, and each day you mean one more. I want to say it's important to remember that this is really not mostly about politics. It's a great deal about the United States and what's happening here, but it's about a great deal more than politics and one nation. The biggest challenge we face is not one leader or one party or one issue or position that fails to recognize the fundamental rights of some people. The biggest challenge we face is that the systems by which we organize our shared life, politically and economically and socially, these systems have been designed in no small part to keep us disconnected, to ensure that we forget our kinship, that we all have worth, that we all belong, and that we only thrive when we thrive together. As the political theorist Brian Stout has written in his blog, Building Belonging, all domination systems, whatever you call them, white supremacy, patriarchy, colonialism, extractive capitalism, all domination systems depend on 3 things to maintain their power: disconnecting us from ourselves and our bodies, disconnecting us from each other and from community, and disconnecting us from the land and other living beings. Once we are disconnected and disengaged, we resign ourselves to powerlessness. And truly, when we disengage and disconnect, we are powerless. When we forget our connections, that we are kin, when we abandon the possibility of another world and fall into cynicism and despair, we're playing into the hands of tyrants. Our perception of powerlessness is exactly what empire needs to survive. So I'm going to ask you to look around this room. If you don't see power, I'm going to ask you to look again. And listen. The voices, the stories are here as well. And to your stories, I want to add the stories of UUSC partners who consistently and stubbornly claim their power and reject the notion that there is little we can do. They are part of the we mean. Like Anna Maria Tesfaye. Anna Maria is an Ethiopian-Russian activist who founded Queersvit, a UUSC partner offering resources and companionship to the queer community that has been impacted by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A number of your congregations helped make UUSC's work in response to the full-scale invasion possible. Thank you. Queersvit has provided legal support and asylum consultation, travel assistance, and humanitarian aid to more than 1,000 queer people from Ukraine and the neighboring countries. I had the privilege of meeting Anna Maria just a year after the invasion happened. It was a very difficult moment because, like many other organizations, some of the funders who had come forward were pulling back. And at that time, UUSC was Queersvit's only funder. Anna Maria does not give up easily, and she continues to believe there is more she and they and we can do. Queers Fit, 2, 3, a delegation, sometimes so many more, when they know they have our solidarity. A dozen make a demonstration. There were just about 24 at the Corinne Women Organization School for Girls and Young Women when a group of us from UUSC arrived early for our visit to their school in Mae Sot, Thailand. For decades, and especially since the military's illegal seize of political power in 2021, ethnic and religious minority communities in Burma, also known as Myanmar, are resisting and laying the foundations for multi-ethnic democracy. We're thinking we could learn some things from them. KWO is one of UUSC's 15 partners working in and around Burma for religious freedom, stopping the genocide against the Rohingya Muslim minority, and building a true democracy. We visited in early December, and on that morning, we were a full day earlier than they had actually expected. So when we came in, there was a little back and forth, and finally we all settled into their main classroom and went around the room introducing ourselves to each other. We were there to learn about how these 20 or so teenage girls and young women, some who had come from refugee camps, were becoming organizers, democracy activists, and leaders. After the introductions, the silence betrayed our bad timing. They really weren't ready for us. Just as it started to feel a little bit awkward, a young woman sitting in the back row stood up and walked to the front of the room. And with the help of UUSC's staff, Myra, who translated for her, she told us about her life, the village that was bombed by the military junta, their nomadic existence in the forest, having to outrun new attacks and threats, about being sent to the refugee camp so that she could receive some semblance of an education. She very precisely offered an analysis of the political situation inside Burma and the importance of democracy education, particularly for young women. It was as good as any TED Talk I've ever seen. She sat down, and only a few moments went by when another young woman in the room stood up, came to the front, and told her story, and then another. These young women did more to help us understand the power of the work of that organization than I would have believed possible. A dozen or so make a demonstration and sometimes change the world. And 1,000 fill a hall. It took UUSC partner Pacific Island Students Fighting Climate Change 4 years to make it to the General Assembly at the United Nations Hall in New York, where their campaign to get international action on the impacts of climate in their island nations was successful. This is Vishal. On that day, just this past December, UUSC staff joined Vishal and others from the Pacific Island students as the International Court of Justice at The Hague heard their case for reparations, the funding of repair from the bodies that have profited from the harm they have experienced. They started out with 23 students in a law school classroom in Fiji and methodically built their global solidarity. For us at UUSC, it has been an incredible privilege to be part of that building from the beginning. When we funded their travel to a climate conference where they got the support of major funders, and then ultimately the affirmation by unanimous consent of the United Nations General Assembly. Now, UUSC's next crisis response is emerging here in the United States. And even if you might hear my voice shake a little more than usual, I can tell you we know what to do. I'm not saying that we know everything or that we can predict anything or that we know the only right way, but our partners have taught us how to resist again and again in partnership with movements and always centering the communities most at risk. That's why we are growing our work with Pink Haven, a network of activists and organizations working to help trans and gender expansive people who are fleeing unsafe states or the worst unsafe places in the United States and moving to places that have some more safety for them. From our very beginnings at UUSC, we have worked to support people who are forced to flee their homes because their very identity is criminalized from the very beginning. In Prague, Czechoslovakia, and later in Hungary and Mexico and Ukraine and the Pacific and Bangladesh and many other places. And now, my friends, we are working with internally displaced people right here in the United States. Immediately after the election, we provided an emergency protection grant to Pink Haven to support travel subsidies, security, and staffing, which is what they told us they needed. And because of financial support from UUs and other progressive people, we were able to say yes. And because of congregations like yours, people at great risk are finding welcome and a place to rest and sometimes even a new start. My colleague, Laura Randall, who is with me, will be sharing more about the work of Pink Haven at our conversation after the service. If you are not yet a member of UUSC, or maybe you were a member and something just got lost over the last couple of years, I hope you will rejoin us. I hope you will want to and be able to provide financial support, but also I ask that you sign up for UUSC's Resistance Network. This is a way we are going to come together and respond to our partners who are asking for support in advocacy to create change. I hope you'll consider a gift. I walked in this morning and one of our supporters came up with a smile and handed me a check for $1,000. I hope you'll consider a gift of $1,000 or $100 or $1. That's what solidarity looks like. Can we resist? Can we resist? Will we refuse? Will we refuse? Is love here? It goes on, one at a time. It starts when you say we, and you know who we mean. And each day, we mean one more. May it be so. Amen.